Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform for the preparation of competitive exams. My name is Neelam Malkani. I'm going to be a facilitator and guide for CAT. In today's session, I'm going to take up a few words with current affairs. On this channel only, I have been taking up sessions for vocabulary building with innovative techniques. We learned a few words with pictures, with etymology, with current affairs, with US presidential election. So in that series only, I have brought up this session to learn new words with 2 items of news which hit the headline last week. I have compiled a list of words to make it more interesting and relevant for you. But before that, let me give you a brief introduction of myself. As I said, my name is Neelam Malkani. I have around 12 years of experience of test preparation industry, and I have trained students of CAT, GRE, GMAT, SAT, TOEFL and IELTS. My areas of expertise have been verbal reasoning and English. I've also set and designed assessment papers of English for English and reasoning, and also served as an examiner for an international exam. Recently, I've authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. This session is brought to you by Unacademy, so let me take you to its portal and tell you how you can be part of this. You have to download Unacademy Learning app from the Play Store. After filling in all the details, you will be shown 3 courses plus free courses and special classes. If you want to join classes for CAT, you have to go in the category of plus. When you go in the subscription, you will be shown all the features that you will be availing after joining the course, such as 30 hours of live sessions. Every day you get to see 30 hours of live session on the portal, taken up by 14 plus top educators who have extensive experience of mentoring and guiding students in their respective fields. So as per your choice, as per your availability, and as per your convenience, you can choose the educator and you can choose the time of your class. The courses which are delivered by these faculty members are well structured and designed by those people who have experience of curriculum and module designing. Every month, you get to see a new course being launched on the portal to cater to the demands of a specific exam. Once you go forward to make payments, you will be shown all the models of subscription which have been designed to cater to your specific needs, such as if you want to prepare for CAT 2020, you can go for 1 year subscription. If you want to attempt this year CAT, then you can go for 2 months, 1 month or 3 months subscription. Whichever model of subscription you choose, if you want to avail 10% further discount, you will have to type code Neelam. Unacademy is conducting a national scholarship test starting from 14th of October this month, every Sunday. This test is organized by Unacademy, which is based on the recent changes in pattern of CAT brought in this year. So the exam or this test is going to make you conversant with the recent changes which have been brought in the test pattern, and that is going to prepare you for your actual exam this year. The exam is going to be divided into 3 sections, and same day you take the test, you will be given detailed analysis of each section by an expert faculty who has designed the section. You will get to know your All India ranking. You will also get to know about your scaled score. What more, if you are one of the top 50 scorers in the test, you will get the opportunity to win Amazon voucher of rupees 5,000. So what are you waiting for? Go enroll yourself and take this test and see where you stand in terms of your preparedness and your performance in this exam. Alright? Now let's move on and start today's agenda. As I said, I have taken up two important pieces of news which hit the headline last week. One of them is the sudden demise of iconic actor Sean Connery. So, the legendary actor died at the age of 90 at Bahamas, where he was living at peace. So James Bond actor died aged 90. The Scottish actor was best known for his portrayal of James Bond, being the first to bring the role to the big screen and appearing in 7 of the spy thriller. Sir Sean Connery has died at 90. So this is the piece of news that I have taken up to teach you some words which can be associated with this iconic personality, the kind of life he lived, and the kind of personality he built around. All right, so let's get started. The first word which comes to my mind when I see Sean Connery is suave. So the kind of stylistic persona he portrayed through the character of James Bond was suave and sophisticated, absolutely stylish, full of panache. So, suave is a person who is extremely confident, attractive, same time polite. So, if you have seen some of his movies, or if you have seen some of the snippets of those movies in which he played the character of James Bond, he comes off as a suave, sophisticated spy who knows how to articulate, how to sweep all the women under their feet. All right. So sometime in a way that does not seem sincere. So suave is defined in a way that defines the characteristic of a person who is extremely stylish and sophisticated. So the manager was suave and sophisticated. Usually the word is used for men. He gave his usual suave performance. So that way he was as usual stylistic in his performance. He plays a suave and sophisticated detective, right? So possibly this sentence is dedicated. I have taken up from a dictionary, but this sentence is dedicated to this man only, right? So suave and sophisticated, a person who is very polite, same time very, very stylish and sophisticated in his mannerism, in his appearance, and he's very polished, all right? So when you see some of his pictures, old pictures in which he played this James Bond character, he comes off as a suave spy. Another word is indelible. So indelible is anything which cannot be removed, which cannot be erased. Indelible. So he was the first person who embodied the character of James Bond. He was the first actor who was chosen to play this iconic character. So people who started watching and following James Bond franchise, they find that he made this character indelible. They could not accept any other character, any other actor as James Bond later on, because he was so much imprinted in their minds, in their memory as James Bond. Alright, so indelible is something which is impossible to forget or impossible to remove. So indelible. So indelible memory of Sean Connery as James Bond. So the experience made an indelible impression on me. So here from the sentence, it suggests that whatever experience I had, it imprinted in my mind. It left indelible mark on my mind. That means I cannot forget it. Alright, so indelible. When you cast your vote in an election, the people who are at the booth, polling booth, they put an ink on your finger. So that ink is indelible, at least for a week. You cannot remove that ink, right? So that ink is indelible, that cannot be removed. Her unhappy childhood left an indelible mark. So indelible mark here, that means she could not come out of those adverse uh, and unhappy memories she built because of her bad childhood. All right. So here, indelible mark can be that mark which cannot be removed, which cannot be forgotten. So leaving a mark that cannot be removed. So here, Sean Connery, with his iconic style, with his extremely super performance as James Bond, left an indelible mark on his audience, on his fans. All right. Third word that I have taken up to describe and to pay tribute to this actor is embody. So embody is basically to express or represent an idea or quality. So James Bond character was an idea, right? It was a fictional character. It was embodied by Sean Connery. Alright, so he was the first actor who was chosen to play the character. He was the first James Bond on screen. He embodied the persona of James Bond. So embody is basically to represent an idea or a quality. Mahatma Gandhi embodied austerity. Mahatma Gandhi embodied simplicity or non-violence. So these are abstract characteristic. Non-violence, an abstract notion. Simplicity, again, an abstract thing. He embodied these characteristics or these notions. That means when you see Mahatma Gandhi, you see these characteristics in motion. You see that how non-violence should look like or how simplicity should be if it had a personality. All right, so that's how this word is used. So here Sean Connery embodied James Bond, the character of James Bond. It was a fictional character confined to books, confined to novels. Ian Fleming wanted to make a movie, and then he was chosen to play the character. So he embodied this character. So look at some more sentences to clarify the meaning. A politician who embodied the hopes of black youth. So hopes, again, is an abstract notion, an intangible idea which does not have a form. So when you see a person who gives the aspiration to black youth, it's possibly Martin Luther King. So he embodies the hopes of black youth, right? So every black youth sees hope in that person. So he embodies hope for black youth. So the principles embodied in the Declaration of Human Rights. So this declaration is the representation of human rights. So that way you can use this word. All right. I hope with Sean Connery you can, relate this word easily, because that was just a fictional character. It came alive, it came into life by Sean Connery, right? So he embodied this character. Now, when I was searching for different newspaper about what people have said to tribute him or to pay their last respect. So one of the newspapers, very leading newspaper of West, called him Irascible Scot. He was a Scottish actor, right? His native place was Scotland. And he always espoused the idea of the freedom of Scotland, the independence of Scotland. He was a strong advocate of that. So Irascible Scot, since he had a very humble beginning, he belonged to a very modest family. He had a very modest upbringing. And he faced a lot of adverse circumstances in his life. From that only he ascended to greater heights in his career and in his life. Irascible here, when this newspaper is terming him Irascible Scot, that means whatever unrefined characteristic he had because of that upbringing, he could not get over those characteristics. He retained those things all his life. He was irascible. So however suave he was in his movies, but in his actual life, he was ill-tempered, right? He lost his temper very easily. Anybody could get him annoyed very easily. So irascible is someone who becomes angry very easily, who can easily be provoked on the slightest provocation. All right. So here, Irascible Scot. So this newspaper called him an Irascible Scot because he was known for some of the statement he made in media and some of the activities he was involved in, which termed him as a person who was very short-tempered. So irascible is basically a person who can be angry very easily, who loses his temperament very easily. And look at the sentence. She is becoming more and more irascible as she grows older. Right? So I hope you understand irascible. Irascible Scot here. So Scot is used for those people who come from Scotland. Ascended. Look at the sentence which have used this word so as to understand what is the reference of using this sentence. He was the milkman's boy. So he actually sold milk when he was very young. Raised in the fumes of brewery and the North British rubber works. So his father was working in a rubber factory. Just to give you the idea that how humble his background was. Who ascended the heights of Hollywood to become the most famous living Scot. So most famous living Scot coming from Scotland. Right? From these humble beginnings, from these humble backgrounds, he came and he ascended the heights of Hollywood. So ascend, I hope you understand from the context. Ascend is to rise, to go up or to climb up. He ascended the fames of Hollywood. So the path, this started to ascend more steeply. So here, as we ascend, it is becoming more and more steep. So here, when you say it is becoming more steep, that means as we are going higher. The air became colder as we ascended. So as we went up, as we climbed up, the air became colder. Alright, so that way you can ascend, you can understand the meaning of ascend. So the result ranked in ascending order. I hope we are clear with this word now. Ascending order, descending order. So with that, I hope the word is clear. Now look at one more sentence that I have taken. No young actor nowadays would begin their working life at the age of 9. He started working when he was at the tender age of 9. Because to support his family financially, he had to go out and start working. So he started doing these odd jobs. He sold milk. He polished coffins when he was very young. He did all kinds of odd jobs to support his family financially. Rising at 5 a.m. from the squalor of a cramped tenement. Now look at these words. To deliver milk in handcart. So he used to have a small handcart. In that he would deliver milk door to door. Now look at these words. Squalor of a cramped tenement. Alright, so squalor, dirty and unpleasant conditions. So when he was living in Scotland, the kind of environment he was living in, or the kind of, place he was living in was dirty, was filthy, was full of dirt. So the poverty and squalor of the slums. So from this sentence you can understand what squalor means. When you go in a slum area, when you go in a shanty area, you can understand the hygiene condition there. You can understand the situation of cleanliness there. So from that you can anticipate what this word means. In squalor, he had lost his job and was living in squalor. So in squalor, that means he was not living in a good condition. His condition is not good financially. He was born in squalor next to the docks, a beautiful garden amid the squalor of the slums. Right? So this word means something which is dirty, filthy, unhygiene, or not clean. Now squalor, another word was cramped tenement. So tenements is a large building divided into flats. So you try to picture Dharavi of Mumbai. So a large buildings are huge, right? May not be very tall, but they are sprawling in terms of their width. So a large building divided into small flats, especially in a poor area of the city, a tenement block. Alright, so he was living in a squalor condition in a tenement in Scotland. Just to give you a background of his struggle, that from that he ascended to the great heights of the name and fame of Hollywood. So families living in overcrowded tenements, living in a crowded tenement. So here, I hope the words are clear. Cramped is a room which does not have enough space for the people in it. Cramped quarters of Dharavi, right? Where in one room you see 8, 10 people surviving. One room, working in cramped conditions. The conditions which are not habitable. He lived for 6 months in a cold, cramped attic room. Right? So here, cramped, squalor, and tenements. All three words used in this sentence to give you an idea about his background, about his humble and modest beginning. So gritty is another word which is used by one of the leading newspapers to define his bold, courageous attitude. So he played the character of James Bond, but in his own life, in his personal life as well, he was very bold and courageous. As I said, since he was from Scotland and Scotland was under the rule of Britain, he always voiced his opinion against this whole system, and he always advocated the idea of independence of Scotland. And when it got the independence, he was the person who was invited to the ceremony. Gritty. So somebody who shows courage and strength of mind to continue doing something difficult or unpleasant. So now imagine the situation he was from. So imagine the situation he was born into. From that, he reached to a situation where he was seen as an icon of success, icon of talent, icon of courage and strength. So he ascended to situation because of his grit and determination. So this is how grit is defined: courage and strength of mind. So gritty determination, a gritty performance from the British player. So you can see from this sentence, an ardent supporter of Scottish nationalism. So Scottish nationalism, since he was born Scottish actor, he always, though he was living in Hollywood, doing all American movies, nonetheless his roots were grounded there in his native place. He always advocated this idea of the liberation of Scotland from Britain. Alright, so his grit and determination to overcome his adverse circumstances of his personal life, as well as even after getting so much success, he did not forget his roots. Alright, so with that you can understand this word, defining perfectly what kind of man he was. Another word that I have taken up to define one of his characteristics is steadfast. So steadfast is not changing your attitude or your aims. So when you are very firm, when you are staunchly adherent to what you believe, you are principled in your ideology or in your belief. So that is steadfast. So grit and steadfast, gritty and steadfast. These are two adjectives which are perfectly defining his attitude and his characteristic. So steadfast loyalty. He was all his life, he steadfastly dedicated to the cause of independence of Scotland. Steadfastly. And certain other beliefs as well that he abided by all his life. Steadfast in doing something or steadfast in something. He remained steadfast in his determination to bring the killers to justice. So, in order to understand the word in its totality, you can use this word for any person who is staunchly supporting a cause, who is not deviating from his beliefs. So that is also steadfast. When it comes to corruption, our Prime Minister seems to be steadfast against it, right? So here you can understand that when it comes to rooting out corruption from India, he is steadfast. Alright, so he is very firm, he is uncompromising on that issue. So steadfast can be used in different contexts when you talk about a person who is very firm and strong in his opinion or in his following. Alright, next word is fulsome. So when this news came and everybody was shocked to hear that, though he was in the ripe old age of 90 and he had fulfilling life. He was in Bahamas where he always wanted to live, and he was in peace, he was with his family. So that way you can see that he's finally rest in peace. At the same time, the people who were really saddened after hearing this news, they expressed their grief, their emotions, their feelings for this iconic actor. And they paid tribute on Twitter and other social media platforms. And sometimes they express their thoughts and opinion about the actor in a way which seemed fulsome tribute. Now please try to understand this word. Fulsome is excessive flattery, excessive praise, excessive appreciation, which borders on flattery. It appears that what people are saying is not sincere. How can they be so appreciative of something? Alright, so fulsome tribute for the actor, fulsome tributing words for the actor. So here, look at the sentence and then we will try to see the definition of the word. The nature and allure of that elusive quality. Allure is, again, something which is captivating. He has that captivating personality. He had that allure around him because of his enactment of James Bond character, as well as his own personality, which was larger than life. So the nature and allure, so allure here is attraction. Allure of that elusive quality is difficult to define, as evidenced in the flurry of fulsome tributes paid to Connery in the past few hours. So fulsome tributes, full of praise, full of appreciation, full of admiration, yet which looks as if these people are being excessive in their praise. Look at the sentence. First Minister Nicola described it as a towering presence, while Daniel Craig, the current Bond, said Connery's radiance could be measured only in megawatts. Radiance can only be measured in megawatts. So here you can understand these words which are expressed by these dignitaries of Hollywood to pay tribute to the actor. They are so appreciating that they look fulsome. Too much appreciating. Too generous in praising or thanking someone, which sometimes sound insincere. So here, when Daniel Craig said his radiance could be measured only in megawatts. So it sounds insincere because possibly it is something which is above board. Alright, so here fulsome is too much appreciating. So a fulsome apology. Here you can understand the word fulsome apology, profusion of apology, profusion of saying sorry. So that borders on being insincere. He was fulsome in his praise of the Prime Minister, complimentary or flattering to an excessive degree. So the press was embarrassingly fulsome in their appreciation. Alright, so here you can understand the word fulsome tribute to the actor, excessively praising, excessively appreciating, but the word is also used for those words which are flattering. So here, let's quickly revise the words dedicated to this actor. Suave, very sophisticated, stylish, full of style, and too much panache. Alright, so suave character. Indelible, something which cannot be removed or something which cannot be forgotten is indelible. So his characterization of James Bond, or his playing the character of James Bond, has left an indelible mark on his fans. He embodied the character of James Bond. Irascible is someone who can be easily angered, who can easily be provoked. Ascended is to go up, is to rise in your life. Gritty is the courage and strength of mind, especially when the situations is opposite, or the situation is unpleasant. Squalor is filled. Squalor is living in dirty and filthy conditions. Cramped is crowded. Cramped is also very small. Tenements is small building. It is usually a building which is divided into small flats, usually which are there for poor people or lower income group people. Steadfast is again not changing your attitude or your aims. Steadfastly, that means you are firm, you're strong in what you do, you're resolute, you don't give up easily. Fulsome is excessively praising or excessively admiring. Allure is attraction or attractive or captivating. Somebody who has mesmerizing personality is alluring personality. So this word also defines his persona as James Bond, alluring or captivating. Now another piece of news which hit the headline last week was what happened in Chile. Chile, country in Latin America, where people went out and vote in favor of the making new constitution. They are going to scrap away their old constitution, and people and the representative of Congress are going to draft new constitution. So that was unprecedented in its own way. That is why I have taken up this news to give you the understanding of some of the words associated with it. All right. So let's look at the headline. The people of Chile vote in historic referendum on constitution. With 100% of the ballot counted, voters approved the referendum in a landslide victory. 78% voted in favor of the new constitution. So it was a landslide victory. 78% whooping majority came out and voted in favor of the drafting of new constitution. They are not happy with the old constitution which has been put into place for last 40 years, and it has brought in a lot of resentment and protest in the country. Last year this protest sparked off, and because of pandemic it kind of died down. After this, in September, it again came into momentum, and finally this voting happened. All right. So the voting turnout was the voting verdict is 70% voted in favor of new constitution. Now, voter cast ballot on whether to replace a Pinochet era constitution. He was one of the military dictators of Chile, which ruled the country for quite a long time, with a new charter drafted by citizens. So this new constitution is going to be collectively drafted by new citizens, the people who are going to be elected by common people and people who are part of Congress. All right. Now, the word for referendum is plebiscite. Now, plebiscite comes from pleb. Pleb is common men, and common class is plebeian class. A plebiscite is referendum. Plebiscite is a vote by people of a country on a specific issue. That is what is plebiscite. So there was a plebiscite in Chile. 78% people voted in favor of the drafting of new constitution. Right? So here plebiscite on something. The first word is that. Hold a plebiscite on the country's future system of government. If you remember, there was a plebiscite in Britain on the issue of Brexit, whether this country should remain with Euro or it should, exit from Euro. So that was the issue which was put for referendum, and people voted, and finally Brexit happened. So that way, plebiscite can be understood by vote by common people on an issue faced by that country. Alright, so there was a plebiscite in Chile whether we should continue with the constitution which the country has, or there should be a new constitution executed. Look at the sentence. The administration will hold a plebiscite for the approval of constitutional reforms. Right? So here you can understand the meaning of the word. Now the country's economy was in shambles. Though Chile is not the poorest country of Latin America. It is one of the economically advanced countries of Latin America. Nonetheless, economic disparity is huge in Chile. Nearly 4 or 5% people hold the possession of majority resources in the country. Most of the resources are owned, regulated, governed by this minuscule minority. So, economic disparity is huge in this country, and this actually created discontent among people, as well as some other laws which do not give social liberty to people. There is political liberty, but there is no social liberty, there is no economic liberty. So that way, there was a lot of discontent, hence this whole unrest happened last year, this agitation happened last year, which led to this voting this year. All right. So in shambles, now I gave you the background. In public health care, education systems are in shambles. The meager pension forced most people of retirement age to continue working. Now understand this word. Shambles is a situation in which there is a great lack of order or understanding, complete mess. So when you say something is in shambles, that means there is complete lack of order, or there is complete lack of arrangement. So that is in shambles. Something is in ruins, something is in shambles. So a lot of manufacturing units went in shambles after this pandemic because they did not have access to raw material, they did not have access to laborers. So they went in shambles, or they are in shambles. In mess, in shambles. So economy in Chile is in shambles. The press conference was a complete shambles. It's always plural. Alright, so this is one of the nouns which is always plural. I mean, the word always ends with S. What a shambles. Now look at this phrase. A article is put up here. Though the word is plural, but the word article A is put up here because shambles is always put up that way. What a shambles. He has made an absolute shambles of his career. So he has taken certain decisions which have destroyed his career. Alright? In a shambles, the government is in shambles over Euro. So you can understand the word is used for Chile. The economic situation is in shambles, and healthcare and education. So this whole sentence, this whole text can give you the idea what the economic status of the country is. It's in shambles. Now look at the sentence and then we will understand what disproportionate means. The country returned to democracy in 1990, but the constitution gave the president and the constitutional court disproportionate power over legislation and policy making. So it has been a democracy. So the whole perplexing thing about this recent happening in Chile is it is already a democratic country. It already has a constitution. It's not a it does not have autocracy or a dictatorship. Unlike Tunisia, where Arab uprising started, it is a democratic nation. So what was the need to make this new constitution? So here the country adopted democracy in 1990, but the constitution gave the president and the constitutional court disproportionate power. President has enormous power. He wields enormous power to dictate all the organs of government, legislation and policy making way. So that way he has a lot of powers in his hand. So he, in a way, functions as a dictator. Alright, so that is why people were discontented with this kind of functioning of the government, hence they wanted changes. So disproportionate means too large or too small according to proportion. So too large or too small. So here disproportionate power is referring to too much power. So it was a democratic government, but among all the organs of the government, where there should be equal distribution of power, so that power of balance is maintained, president was given disproportionate power. He was given a lot of power, and hence the control was with him for legislature as well as for executive. So this way you can understand the meaning of disproportionate. So the area contains a disproportionate number of young middle class families. In this area, you will find majority of families having young middle class composition. Fine. So disproportionate is too large or too small. Disproportionate number of young people are looking for jobs. That means possibly those people who are churning out of these colleges, they should be employed by organization, but a disproportionate number, too many of them are jobless. Alright, so certain number is acceptable, but disproportionate number is jobless. So that way, too large or too small. Both ways this word can be used. Now, elitism. Look at this sentence which defines the situation of Chile, and then we will discuss this word with its definition and usage. Fierce anti-government demonstrations over inequality and elitism in one of the Latin America's most advanced economies. Here, the word is suggesting inequality. As I told you, it is not a poor nation, yet the resources, the distribution of resources is heavily lopsided. It's in favor of those people who are at the helm of affairs, who are having power. Same way, the distribution of power is also unequal. It's heavily in favor of President of Chile. Other organs do not enjoy that much power that is given to President. So here, elitism or elitist word is coming. Now this word actually means, it defines a system or an organization or a society where only a few people have power, influence, or resources or access to resources. And they enjoy these privileges. They get benefited out of these privileges. They further their own nest and they deprive other people of enjoying these privileges or having these privileges. So that is what is elitism. So this is what emerged in Chile out of this government system, and because of this constitution, it bred elitist culture, and only a few people who were at the top or who were at the higher echelon of the society, they had access to resources, they deprived other people of these resources, and hence they benefited a lot and they became wealthier and other people became poorer. And that way, the disparity of resources, the disparity of income widened. Alright, so elitism, elite is that top layer of the society, the top cream of the society, which is in a way privileged, which is in a way exclusive. So that is elite. So that giving so much preference to elite class of the society is elitism. So this is one of the reasons poor people and common people agitated against this whole system, and they decided to subvert the whole government, subvert this whole system there. Alright? So elitist. So a way of organizing the system so that only a few have power or influence. Look at the sentence. Many people believe that private education encourages elitism. So in private education sector or private colleges, only those people who have access to resources to study in that college will get admission, not all the people. If it's a government college, possibly all the people who may not be privileged, may not be wealthy enough, may not come from a fluent class, will also get admission if the system is based on meritocracy. But in a private institution, which is based on your financial background, whether you are able to pay the fee or not, it gives a rise to elitism because it deprives the admission to those who do not come from that affluent class. Right? From that sentence, you can understand what elitism is. Right? Some organization, you will see elitist culture. So the common group of people are not given any preference, or they are not given any privileges. Chosen few, some of them enjoy all the privileges in that organization, right? So for that as well, this word can be used, elitist culture in an organization. So for the purpose of that country, in the context of Chile, you can understand that people were heavily against this culture which erupted, which in a way emerged in Chile, and consequently it gave rise to monopolistic culture, right? So next word is insular. Now insular, now again, in the context of Chile, try to see this sentences, and then we will understand what this word actually means. These factors helped create an unresponsive and insular political class. These factors, the earlier factors that we discussed. So the political system is highly in favor of president, and very few people have access to resources, and those people would enjoy these privileges. It created an unresponsive and insular political class, only interested in your own country, or only interested in your own idea, only interested in your own group, is insular. So here, the word is used in the context of Chile to define the attitude of those people who were in the power, who were in the ruling position. They were only interested in their own interest. They were focusing only on their own interest. They were completely unresponsive to common people's plight, their adversities, their problems, because they did not have to face any music because of functioning the way they were functioning. Alright, so they became insular. So insular is when you are confined to your own group, your own country, your own organization. Alright, so that is insular, very provincial in your approach, very narrow-minded in your approach. You don't have a broad outlook. You don't have kind of an outlook which is encompassing or which is all inclusive. You're not thinking about others, you're not thinking about everyone. Rather, you are confining to yourself, or you are confining to the group you belong to, or you are confining to only your family. That way, you are very, very narrow-minded. So here, insular political class is defining those politicians who were thinking only about themselves. They were not thinking about common people. So the British are often accused of being insular. So the British, known, the Englishmen, are known for being insular. They think only about themselves. They are very egoistical in their approach because all they think about is their own interest. Alright, so that way you can understand they are always accused of being insular. Having little contact with other people, that is also insular. So people living restricted and sometimes insular existence. So here, those people who do not have much contact with other people also are insular. So one meaning of this word is this, another is when you are very narrow-minded, when you are very selfish, self-centered, that way you are insular in your approach. Provincial. So provincial, you are only confined to your province. You're thinking, your thoughts are confined to the betterment of your province only. You don't have a broad outlook thinking about your own country. You're not encompassing, you're not all-inclusive in your attitude. Alright, so that way insular can be understood. Now, soldiers ubiquitous on Chile's streets. Since the declaration of soldiers ubiquitous on Chile's streets, since the declaration of state of emergency during the protests last year and again with the outbreak of COVID-19 in March, will oversee the process inside polling stations. Soldiers ubiquitous on Chile's street. So ubiquitous means something or someone who can be seen, who can be found everywhere, widespread, omnipresent, pervasive, everywhere. You see that thing everywhere. So that way, that is ubiquitous. Soldiers ubiquitous. Ever since the declaration of state emergency in Chile last year, you can see these soldiers deployed on every nook and corner of Chile. You see them paying their duties, discharging their duties on these on their respective places. So they are ubiquitous. You can see them everywhere in Chile. Alright? Seeming to be everywhere or in several places at the same time. Ubiquitous. The ubiquitous bicycle of university towns. So everybody can be seen riding a bicycle. So it's such a common item that it is ubiquitous. The ubiquitous movie star. Blue is derived from the ubiquitous indigo plant. So it's a plant which can be found easily. It's not a very hard to find plant. It's a very commonly found plant. So ubiquitous plant, indigo. He is as recognizable and as ubiquitous as the celebrity he photographs. So you can understand this word meaning for defining anything which is found everywhere. Ubiquitous resources. Ubiquitous corruption in India. In every department, everywhere, in every state you find corruption happening. So ubiquitous. The ubiquitous portrait of the president usually showed him in the military uniform. So it's something which is a very common sight. You can see his photograph in a military uniform everywhere. It's a very common sight. Alright, so ubiquitous soldiers. I hope the word is clear. Now let's go on to discuss next word. The word is stymied. Now before that, please look at the word in the context from which part I have taken up so that you understand the context, and then we will discuss the word meaning. The political system Chileans inherited from the Pinochet era. So this word is used, I mean the Pinochet was one of the military dictators of Chile who ruled the country 40 years ago, and he ruled the country for disproportionately long time. And because of his dictatorship, his autocratic rule, the country went in shambles. So you see some of these words coming in this sentence: disproportionate, in shambles. So Pinochet era long stymied reform, since he wielded enormous power, disproportionate power, and he was in the ruling position for a long time. And because he ruled country for a long time, no reforms could be brought in. Nobody dared to bring any reform because he had all his power. He was an autocratic person. He was a dictator, military dictator. So he controlled all the organs of government. And hence, there was no uprising, there was no revolt, and nobody dared to bring in any reforms under his regimes. So that way, his era stymied the reforms. And once his era ended, people revolted, and finally, this time came when the constitution framing has been approved. That now new constitution will put into place. So to prevent, the word means to prevent somebody from doing something that they have planned or want to do. To prevent somebody from happening is also stymie. He found himself stymied by an old opponent. So he wanted to do something, but an old opponent prevented him from doing something. Financial difficulties have stymied the company's growth because of financial lack of financial funds, or lack of funds. The company has not been able to register growth. So it has prevented the financial growth of the company. All right. So this word is synonymous with prevent or forbid. All right. So because of this, his rule, or because he was in the power, no reforms could be brought in. So very quickly, let's revise the words we did with this piece of news. So the first word was plebiscite. The word comes from pleb. Pleb comes for common people. Plebeian is common class, middle class, the plebeian class. Alright? Plebiscite is used for referendum, a vote by the people of a country on an issue which is controversial and which is suddenly become very, very important. So plebiscite. In shambles is in ruins, in very, very bad condition. When you call somebody is in shambles, it is completely in mess. Disproportionate is used for too large or too small. When the proportion is not equal or not expected, it is disproportionate. Elitism, we discussed this word. Elitist is elite is the cream of society, the top layer of a society, elite. So all the favors, all the preferences, or all the privileges this class is granted breeds elitist attitude or gives a rise to elitism, where these people tend to enjoy all the privileges. They have access to all the resources, they have access to all the information, and hence they are benefited mostly. So elitist society or elitism is that kind of system. Insular is basically, the word comes from an island. So insular economy is the economy of an island. Insular lifestyle is a lifestyle which is defining a lifestyle of living on an island. Insular. So when you are confined to your island, when you are very narrow-minded, you are not national, or you are not international, or you are not global in your outlook, you are insular. You are thinking only about your own interest. Maybe your own interest, your family's interest, your group interest, your organization's interest, or your province interest. But you are not global in your outlook. You are not Catholic in your outlook. Rather, you are very, very confined. So insular. So here, insular political class, because this political class had nothing to do with common people. They were confined to their own interests. They are furthering their own interests. So insular class, political class. Ubiquitous, these soldiers who were ubiquitous. They were given the charge to conduct this free and fair election for constitution. So ubiquitous is anything or anyone which is or who is found everywhere. You can find that thing everywhere. That means it's ubiquitous. Ubiquitous water resources. Stymate, so that word is used for preventing or forbidding. Alright, so I hope this issue is clear with you now. If there is group discussion and if any geopolitical issue or recent current affairs are discussed, you will have something to put up. You will have something to contribute to your GD. If you bring in this information that now this country has voted for framing new constitution. So when you support your point with this piece of fact, with this statistics that 78% people voted in favor of making new constitution, suddenly it augments your entry, it augments your point, because you are supporting it with an international piece of news, and that too you are bringing statistics. It is definitely going to give you strength to your point. All right, so that way getting awareness on these issues will give you strength, not only in terms of your awareness level, but also in terms of your confidence level in facing group discussion and personal interview in the last phase of your selection procedures. So I hope you would like this way of building vocabulary in context of these news items. It is helping you to bringing awareness in getting more aware about what is happening around you. Same time, it's also giving you these words in the context, because learning words in isolation is one thing. When I give you a word and I don't give you any context, but I give you the definition, I give you the usage, but same time, the word is given in a context. Here, when we learned this word shambles, in the context of economic status of the country or social status of the country, it suddenly gives you the context, suddenly gives you the background to understand it more effectively. All right, so I would welcome your thoughts, your opinion about how effectively you learn the words with this technique, and if it is helpful to you, and it is turning out to be of some effect for you, please do tell me so that I incorporate more of such session in my coming classes, as well as what other elements you want me to cover up in my coming videos. Do tell me that as well. All right, thank you very much and all the best for your preparation.